Good morning. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Tracina Cash with the Eastern Minority Supplier Development Council, and we welcome you to the Win in the Federal Marketplace conversation that we're having with Judy Brandt, who is CEO of Summit Insight. She has 33 years of experience. She's been an expert in federal contracting. As a consultant, speaker, and author, she's helped thousands of businesses from solopreneurs to multi-million-dollar corporations find their fast track to success in the federal arena. Her latest book, Government Contracts Made Easier, is an Amazon #1 bestseller, and the companion workbook has just been published there too. And we hope that each of you got both of your copies of those books earlier this week in preparation for today's session. Her clients use her tools and techniques to get in front of the right federal buyers and go on to drive millions of dollars in federal business. But as she discovered herself, there is a hard way and an easier way to do that. So let's find out more about how to make things happen for you. And just as we're welcoming her in, I just want to let you know just some housekeeping notes. We are recording today's session. We're asking each of you to mute your mics. Questions that you may have along the way, please enter those into the chat so that we can answer them following the presentation. And then following today's presentation, EMSDC will email you a survey that will ask you to fill out. We'll also email you a copy of the slide deck as well as today's recording. So thank you very much. Judy, take it away.
Thank you so much, Tracina. What an honor to be with an extraordinary group of business owners. And I'm completely thrilled to be joining you today. And welcome. I want to start by saying Happy New Year. The federal new year is underway and started on October 1st. And so let's jump right in. I'd love to know a little bit more about you. We're gonna have a really engaged conversation. So stay on your keyboard. Stay close because we're going to have a lot of back and forth in the chat. And I absolutely want to see your questions in the chat as well. And so as we get started, I'm going to be cherry picking some of the best of my 30 plus years in this market for you. I would love you to enter in the chat one of two numbers. If you are already in the federal market and you want to grow, I'd like you to enter the number 1. If you are trying to decide whether or not the federal market is for you, enter the number 2 in the chat, please. All right, let's start there. As we proceed, take notes. And at the end, I'm going to ask you a question. I'm going to ask you, what are you going to be doing? What commitment are you going to make based on what we're learning today? All righty, so that's where we're going. Lots of 2s, lots of excitement here. How fantastic. All right, so let's get ready and we will begin. This session has been designed for growth-oriented CEOs. And when we put this content together, we thought, what does a CEO want to know? A business owner, a business leader of an established growth-oriented company wants to know, when they're thinking about the federal market, what's the opportunity? What's the investment? What am I going to have to put in? And how long is this going to take? These are great questions. I have answers. So here we go. I'm going to be covering things that are free and easy, things that can be done with some help, and things that are going to take investment. My maxim is this: you're going to spend time and you're going to spend money. All you get to choose is the mix. One more time. You're going to spend time and you're going to spend money. All you get to choose is the mix. All right. And so that mix is going to be unique for you, and you can count on it changing over time. That database that seemed out of reach and really not a great decision today may be, oh, a perfect way to save time 2 or 3 years from now, for example. So Everything is changing every day. So overall, how can you tell whether the federal market is a good fit for your plans to grow the business? Companies that have been successful say these things. In short, ask yourself if you have a product or service that you're already experienced and have a track record at delivering, that a federal buyer and agency needs to perform and deliver and execute their mission. And you've already shown that you can deliver that product or service or mix of products and services and expertise at the quality and price that your government buyer requires. And you've already shown that you can deliver perfectly on time within budget. If you can say a confident yes to that, write me in the chat. If you're confident that you can answer yes to this. Let me see my chats. We're racking about. We got 2, 3. Okay. And if you're thinking about it, that's okay too, because we're going to get into that. But if the answer is yes, a resounding yes, then there are 10 words in federal contracting that start with the letter R. And we're going to be talking about those right now. So get ready to take notes. And again, I welcome your comments and questions in the chat as we go. The first R is registration. Registration to do business with the federal government is free. I'm going to say that again because it's a source of a lot of unintended pain when people don't realize this. It costs no money to register to do business with the federal government. There are folks who are offering a service to register you with the federal government and charge you money. If you find that registering to do business with the federal government is frustrating and time-consuming and confusing, that's a sign that this might not be a great market for you. I say with just a little bit of jest that if you find registering to do business with the federal government to be a lot of no fun, this is really not a market you're going to enjoy very much. The information that you do need to register as members of companies that are certified with EMSDC, you already have most of the information close at hand that you would need to do that registration. And registering as an entity on sam.gov will take you about 20 minutes, and you'll have to process a notarized thing if you're notarized authority if you're doing it for the first time. Starting in December, they'll ask for a little bit more ID in the mail in some way, but that's free. Okay. Now, if your company is eligible for one or more preference programs that are administered or defined by the Small Business Administration, then you want to understand the definition. If your company is eligible, take the steps to make sure that you can access those preferences. They're going to be a little different from some of the preferences in the corporate market. Some will be similar. The kind of documentation you're going to need will be very familiar to you. When you register in sam.gov, just at the point you go, for the sake of all that is holy, could we please be done with it? And there'll be one more screen. It will say, do you want to go and enter information into the dynamic small business search? Do not bypass this button. Say, yep, I want to do that too. And there you're also going to have an opportunity to add a block of keywords or descriptive information about your company. In the same way as the keywords that you put into your NMSDC profile are important for the large primes, the corporate members, to search on you. A well-written block of solid text and searchable keywords is going to be one more, think of it as a lure in the water if you're fishing, one more way to increase the odds that somebody will find you. It's not going to make your phone ring, but it increases the number of touch points or ways that you can get the attention of somebody who's looking for something, and they may be looking for your competitor. You want to make sure they find you too. And multiple federal agencies also have some kind of portal or registration system. Not all of them do, but many do. This is in part because the federal government has set goals for the overall government to award 23% of its contract dollars to small business. And within that, there are 4 specific small business preference programs, and there are government-wide goals for those. And then each federal agency has negotiates specific goals for awarding work to participants in the 8A minority program preference program, the woman-owned preference program, the service disabled veteran-owned small business program, and businesses in historically underutilized business zones. Every single federal agency negotiates its own goals as well. Federal agencies, in order partly to get the work done and as a way to engage with business owners, sometimes the federal agency will set up their own additional registration site. It's a little bit of a test because you've gone through all this effort to register in all of these places, and then you're having a conversation with one or more of your federal humans, and they say, are you registered to do business with our agency? It's really important not to lose your stuff at this point and say, why gosh, sure. Where do I do that? It's part of the dance. It's part of the opportunity to engage, because all of these R's, I'll skip ahead and say that the underpinning of all of this stuff is relationships. And so every single interaction with a human in the federal arena is that chance to build trust and relationships. If you think about it, what percentage of the business that you have won in the time that you've owned your business, what percentage of the business you've won has been really driven and based on relationships? Drop the number in the chat. What percentage of your business is relationship driven? I love this question. It's one of my favorite questions. 95, 100, 50. Definitely makes a big difference. Margie says 90. Yeah, these are very high numbers. This is normal. And so I'm really giving you the equivalent of your own ruby slippers for your own yellow brick road. You already have the power that you need if you understand the importance of relationships. 90% of the people in the federal arena do not get this part. If you do, and you are just as dedicated to building relationships in the federal arena as you have been to build the success in your business so far, you're on the right track. And you'll have a lot more fun than the people who are just digging into process and going, how many more proposals do I have to write? The second R is readiness, This is a market that rewards those who prepare. And so things to think about when you are ready is to get together the resources and information you're going to need to support a trained and elite federally focused team. People talk about federal contracting, federal business as a relationship game. I'm going to add something that I've found in working with my clients this past year. Federal contracting is a team sport. I'm going to say it again. Federal contracting is a team sport. It is not something that you're going to just find somebody on your team and just say, all right, you go do federal. You as the business owner, you as the person in the C-suite, you're going to have involvement and commitment. Even if your team is compact, you're going to need probably 2 or 3 people in the company who are committed to your federal goals, speak federal, understand the effort, and are supporting each other. It is a nasty, lonely game to play, especially if your business, you're the chief cook, bottle washer, and the doing of all things. Federal is a very, very tough place to be. And so things go much better and quicker when you're working with at least 2 or 3 people in the company who are contributing to taking the kinds of steps you've got to take to be successful. What are those steps and what do you got to know? For sure, you need to be committed to and have somebody who does sales. Yeah, the S word. And I chat a lot with my clients. The core of my practice is around understanding what that really means in the federal arena. Writing proposals. These are, you'll notice, are 2 different activities. And if you're writing proposals without developing relationships, you're going to be wasting a lot of money. So the selling part, the relationship development activities is critical before you're writing proposals. Ultimately, whether you do it yourself or you hire outside help, you're going to have to be involved in and investing in the whole art and content of proposal submission and development. There is compliance, financial and billing and reporting, standards for pricing. There's laws and rules that you're going to have to pay attention to, particularly if you're doing business with the Department of Defense. And so those things that you commit to, it also include minding your delivery and project management. On any project of size, you're going to have a lot of moving parts. You've absolutely got to have great systems to be committed to doing delivery and project management well. It helps lower the risk and lowers your client's perception of risk. Anyone that is involved in staffing or providing people on-site expertise, you're also going to need to make or bump up your investment in human resources. And that includes screening and background checks, making sure that, again, you can bring in people with high confidence and people who are going to stay. Staff retention, especially in these times, can be a great differentiator. All right. So your second R is readiness. Your third R is research. The great thing about doing business in the federal arena is there is a ton of public information. The good news is it's all online. The bad news is it's all online. It can be overwhelming. Having a structured method to sort out where are you, where do you want to go, and make a confident choice based on hard data will save you a full year of messing around, because there's a lot of focus in the federal arena on making and meeting those small business goals. And the president has announced intentions for even more lofty goals for awards to federal contract awards to minority-owned businesses. There's a lot of activity in federal agencies, lots of things that are there to attract minority-owned businesses, engage you, get you active. Activity. Think about going around in circles standing in one place. That's activity. Momentum, you're moving forward. I can't do a little dance in the office, but you can imagine the difference between standing in one place and going in circles and stepping forward. You want to be stepping forward, and research can let you set and then move toward a goal. Identify before you start to take action in the federal market. And before you build your federal team, choose the people within your organization. You may have people right in your own company who are courageous, who are looking for opportunity, who are saying, put me in, coach, I'm ready to play. Before assigning new roles to folks, you also want to be thinking about whether or not the people that you have who are interested have the right skills and the ability to learn what they need. Before you build your federal sales team, you want to know who buys what you sell. The great news is there is a ton of free, I'll say it again, free public information that makes it easy for you to actually know who buys what you do, how they buy what you do, when they buy what you do, and how much they buy. So you're spending time wooing people who have money. And another piece of how they buy includes something called contract vehicles, or a type of, think of it as a type of bridge between buyer and seller. Your buyers have a lot of choices for ways to do business with you. Your federal buyers need stuff, and they also need legitimate, efficient ways to get stuff. Both of those are your problem to show up being smart about when you start conversations. Free public data gives you answers to all of those things. The time that you invest to figure this out first, and then focus tightly to build relationships with and build knowledge and liking and trust with programs and people in offices that you know you are meant to serve, will save you a full year of fruitless and profitless distraction. Knowing this information will it will show you the size of the marketplace specific to what you offer. You will be confident knowing how much opportunity there is. And that's critical to stay engaged in, because this is a long game, and we're going to talk about that in a moment. It'll tell you the contract vehicles, the specific bridges between buyers and sellers that you're going to need to invest in to either build your own bridge or borrow someone else's bridge, team with someone who already has access to that contracting swim lane, if you like. Knowing this information will show you where you need to focus your federal sales, relationship development efforts. One of the biggest mistakes that companies make, and is very costly, is to say, well, everyone in the federal government needs what I do, and to spread your efforts a mile wide and an inch deep. When you do that, no one cares you're alive and you don't have resources to burn, and that's what will happen. So it'll let you focus with confidence. So it takes an average of 15 to 30 touches these days to go from contact to contract. It's pretty easy after, even for folks who are experienced in sales, to get a little bit discouraged after leaving 3 or 4 messages. A lot of people never even get to message or touch or attempt number 8. To stay engaged and enthusiastic and leaving just the most amazing voicemails they've ever heard after message number 7 is only possible when you've done the research to know these are my people. I'm going to keep showing up. That helps you make a transition between what you're afraid is pestilence to what's perceived as persistence. Relationships. This is the wonderful, juicy, ooey gooey part of human connection with federal humans in this marketplace. I often have the conversation with folks about, well, who is my buyer? And people get themselves all twisted up over, well, my buyer is the contracting officer. No, my buyer is the cabinet secretary. No, my buyer, they're really the end user. You know, your buyer is really a composite of what I call players at multiple layers. This is just as true in its own way in the corporate environment. When you think about the success you've had in doing business with large corporations, or want to have, you have a supplier diversity professional. The one, typically that's often the person who's very involved in NMSDC, EMSDC. There's going to be a person who is involved in purchasing or the contracting or category management layer. They're doing the buy. You're often going to have an account manager, the person that the large prime has designated as being the primary point of contact with the large company's end client as well. For example, you may have a product or technology or program manager as well. And so you got a lot of layers in these large organizations. The cool thing is that there can be a lot more public information about the activities of some of your government players and layers. You do need to get to know these folks in government just the same way as you need to get to know them in the private sector. Government contracting is the ultimate relationship game. There is an extra layer of rules and regulations over top of it. But if you approach this, instead of asking, what can I bid? And start asking instead, who is my buyer? And how can I woo them long before some requirement hits the street, long before something lands in your email box? You're going to be ahead of the game. So that's the R for relationships. Let's talk resilience. Federal contracting is a long game. Research shows that the mean average length of time that over 745 companies said it took to win their first federal contract was over 12 months. Now that's 12 months where you as the business owner will be spending time and money putting that out and not getting money back in. In fact, this is one of the reasons why being well capitalized is important, because when do you get paid? When you win a federal contract. Well, you get paid, wait a minute, not when you win. You get paid after you do the work. Well, you get paid after you do the work and after you submit a correct invoice, and after maybe it's 30 days or maybe it's longer, depending on the payment cycle of whether you're teamed or primed. And that's assuming that the person who got your invoice knows you found it, didn't move on, and got it processed in time. Oh yeah, and did I mention pandemic? And this is a win that you get after you've identified a prospect, found your people, wooed them, gotten to know them, have them get to know you, maybe done a few small things, built some trust, participated in pre-solicitation, maybe had to find a teaming partner. Suddenly you can see that where that 12 months comes from. Long game. And the good news is that research also shows that a company that wins that first contract, 67% of people who win a first federal contract win one or more follow-on contracts within 12 months of the first win. Both federal buyers and federal prime contractors that you're thinking, oh, I'm just going to team. I would almost say that the only person in the federal arena who is more risk averse than your federal buyer is the federal prime contractor. They have their whole reputation on the line and their relationship with a federal buyer that's very important to them. And they put that at risk if they're not rock solid with their choice of you as their subcontractor. So your prime can be even more risk averse. So you've got lots of trust and awareness and knowledge and liking to build even before that first project. All of this takes patience and persistence and perseverance. You can see why having a clear focus and you know where you're going is critical. The other part of resilience that's important, I want you to think for a moment about a major life milestone, major life achievement that you may have had. Major life achievement you may have had. Maybe it was getting accepted into graduate school. Maybe it was getting a law degree. Maybe it was launching your business. Maybe it was creating a partnership. Major life achievement. Just thinking about that should give you, I hope, a little bit of a memory, a boost, a little bit of a dopamine hit, a little bit of chill. Research shows that boost of thrill and sparkly energy, even for really big achievements, is not that different from the boost of energy you get from a small win. Oh, good. Got the leaf raking done in time for the truck to scoop it from the... Even that small win in your everyday thing can give you a little bit of a boost. Small wins of any kind, small wins, small milestones on your journey are important to know, to define, to notice, and to celebrate. And so having small steps that you're able to recognize and celebrate builds resilience. Research shows that celebration builds resilience. So I want you to be willing to make the investment in stopping to celebrate your small wins and build those in. So resilience is critical in terms of emotional resilience, in terms of financial resilience and resources. It's not uncommon these days to hear that one federal administration or another might be threatened with yet another shutdown. Government shutdowns and slowdowns, they happen. They can affect how long it takes you to get things done, and that affects how long it takes you to get paid. So having resources that mean you can thrive even when unpredictable things can happen in the federal market, that kind of resilience is important. Having backup staff, you need to be able to meet your commitments to staff and to performance, even if we're in an unpredictable labor market. That's really tough, but you're on the hook to go and perform. And so when you have expectations to persist, to solve the problem no matter whatever it is, and to stick it out in not just the marketing, but also the performance when things get tough, is critical. And so when your buyers know you, they like you, they trust you, you perform well, they will want to work with you again. They'll want to refer you to their friends. They'll want to engage you wherever they go. Let's talk about responses. You're going to be involved in writing, not just the big honking thing that people think of as a proposal. And a federal proposal is a very different art form than writing a proposal for a corporate or commercial client. There's a structure. Make a note. The structure of the federal solicitation has parts A for alpha through M like Mike, sections A through M of the solicitation. And those parts are going to be the same in every federal agency. Exactly what goes into them will be different. And so people often ask, where can I find the template to write a federal proposal? Can I get one off the internet? The answer is not if you want to be successful. Contracting officers tell me all the time that some of the biggest boo-boos that they see in proposals that they read are the careless mistake that someone didn't catch, that cut and pasted and plopped the stuff from the Department of Labor proposal into the response for the housing and urban development. This happens all the time, even to whether a company is large or small. So you want to not have that happen to you. In addition to what folks think of as the big, hairy federal proposal. And the thing to remember is then that a federal proposal is a unique art form because it's actually not the place to get creative and inventive and have a really interesting structured proposal. It's almost boring. You answer the mail, you answer the questions, you put it together just the way they ask the question. Ask the question, answer the question, ask the question, answer the question. The creativity in responding in an effective response that wins you the business, the creativity happens many months before. And that includes responding to things that are called pre-solicitation activities. The federal government, remember those small business goals? Federal buyers have to do, the rules require them to do market research. The federal small business goals include steps that say the buyer has to research to find out whether there are 2 or more small businesses that are capable of doing the work at a fair and reasonable price. Small is defined in a very specific way in federal acquisition regulations. And so your company, your minority-owned company could be large by a federal definition. So keep that in mind, different set of definitions. In order to know whether or not there are 2 or more small businesses capable of doing the work at a fair and reasonable price, if there are, then the competition is supposed to be reserved for small business. To know that, the buyers do market research that can include something called a sources sought. In a sources sought, the federal buyer will publish some kind of statement of requirements or intention or interest in buying a product or service or solving a problem. And they'll say, who can do this? The responses that they get will tell them whether or not there are enough small businesses, a deep enough pool of competent suppliers that they could reserve or limit competition among a smaller group of small businesses and still get good value, good performance, great vendor. If you're frustrated or have had the experience of being frustrated that not enough opportunity has been reserved or set aside for a business like yours, and you haven't participated in the sources sought, it's like being annoyed about who got elected if you didn't bother to vote. So responding to sources sought is another way for buyers to get to know you and for you to engage in exchange and even conversations with those buyers, and also start to shape their thinking a little bit about an approach they like or an approach that they don't like. They may, based on the sources sought, they may decide that they're going to break apart a big requirement into smaller parts that small businesses could do if the big requirement isn't something that a small business could do. Your response to sources sought helps them define that. A request for information is an even earlier pre-solicitation activity. And so a request for information is a little bit like saying, the government thinks they want to kind of sort of do a thing. We don't promise we got money. We don't know exactly how we're going to solve the problem. We want to pick your brain. We don't really know what approach we want to take. This is a great opportunity for you to selectively share some ideas. You can show your candy, but not spill it. If you have an approach that you know is effective without spilling the secret sauce, you can still suggest an approach and why your experience has shown this is going to be a really great way for them to meet their requirement. You're participating in shaping the ultimate specification that will end up going out on the street, published in a request for proposal for the big competition. There might be something at a later stage called a draft request for proposal. This is getting really close to the formal competition. This is a point to take a look at how they're defining the requirement, see whether or not it's been defined so narrowly that it really looks like they have somebody else who's not you in mind. Now, if it's gotten to that point, you can nudge it a little bit, but that may be your intelligence that suggests, all right, I'm going to have to play the game, invest in writing a proposal and build the relationship, but I'm probably not going to win this one. Hey, how much do you win? How often do people win anyway? Research shows that the mean average is winning 1 in 4. 1 in 4 proposals. So if you have a better than 25% win rate in the federal arena, you're doing really quite well. And so your mileage may vary, but expect that you're going to have to show up. And so you can see the value of continuing to show up, repetition, repetition, repetition. So people understand you're serious and they get to know you. Other kinds of participation can include quick bids or requests for quotation. Here, the federal buyer, they know what they want, and they're probably going to just go for the lowest offer. There's another kind of response that might be an estimate, for example, on a construction job. And there's the big public request for proposal, the thing that you hear about in myth and legend and real life a lot. When you do win, you've got to be prepared to commit to delivering perfectly on time and within budget. The proposal itself is a big effort, and it is something that if you haven't written a federal proposal before, and footnote, you couldn't pay me enough money to write a federal proposal. That's not because they're not important. They're very important. I'm just terrible at them. I wouldn't do it. I have partners who are great at it. Even if you hire a great proposal consultant, and a great proposal consultant, I will tell you this, here's one of the signs to know. A great federal contract proposal consultant will tell you no, because a great federal contract proposal consultant has a high win rate. If you're considering hiring somebody to help you do this, ask them what their win rate is for products or services like yours in agencies where you're planning on doing business. If they want, and when they tell you that, ask for references, check their references. If you hire a proposal writer without asking those questions and without checking their references, you are at risk, avoidable risk. Minimize your risk, maximize your return, ask the questions, shop around to get help. A proposal writer, where's my magic wand? Here it is. A proposal writer is not a magician. A proposal writer is going to take a lot of work and cooperation and collaboration with you to gather together intelligence from, remember that other R on relationships, gather together that intelligence and really put together a proposal that is going to resonate with the players at all the layers who are involved in making the decision. And so expect that even if you hire help, it's going to take a significant investment of cash and sweat equity. How much? Depending on how big the opportunity is. You can count on 2 or 3 people, many weeks of effort. When I ask people how much they invest in proposals, depending on the size of the project, it can vary between as little as $5,000 to well over $65,000. I still remember the story that Marissa Levin, CEO of Information Experts, told when she had invested in time and effort just to win a competition to be part of a pool of suppliers who are then going to have to duke it out to win task orders. And she tells the story of walking into the Office of Program Management saying, I have this contract. I have no furniture in my living room, but I have this contract. And so it's that kind of realization. It can be this journey in order to get ready, even just to get ready to respond and compete. Don't mean to scare you. This is what the journey is. This is what it's like. This is also why there are 42% fewer suppliers to the Department of Defense now than there were in 2011. That's the bad news. The good news is that if you plan well, if you are resilient, if you stick to your plan and adapt and commit, you can win more and have more impact on your community, on your business, in the world than ever before. So that's, if your heart is sinking a little, this is why to keep listening and consider whether this is a place you want to be. Reporting. There is reporting. There's a lot at stake in federal contracts, and compliance shows that you are the safe bet. Expect to invest time to update your records, keep them current with the Small Business Administration. You can expect to invest in audits and to be able to be prepared for audits for your rates and the calculations that go into pricing and your determination of what is and isn't included in the costing of your offer to your federal buyer. If your company is large, then you're going to be required to report on your achievement of your goals to award contracts, subcontracts to small business. If your business is defined as large in the federal arena and you win a contract that's worth more than $700,000, you're required to have a small business subcontracting plan, and you're going to have to report on that every quarter. There's going to be reporting to the individual agency. You're going to have a lot of reporting to do on individual projects. There are a lot of reasons why my contracts with federal buyers have been very small. I needed to have the experience of walking the talk and being able to say, this is what it's like. I also have a crystal clear idea that for the size of my business, I choose to help you. And I don't want to own and run a company that has the size and the resources and the commitments and all those things to manage that it takes to go and successfully serve a federal buyer and or do it in a teaming relationship. But compliance means you're the safe bet to have a conversation when you're getting to know your prime and you're getting to know your federal buyer about your compliance systems, your understanding of your requirements, and having documentation to show that you're all buttoned up and ready to do business and be the safe choice, raises their confidence, lowers their perception of you as risky. Your federal buyer does not like risk. Even if you're incredibly talented, have lots of experience in the private sector, no matter how bright the smile, no matter how firm the handshake, when you cross that threshold, all they see is a great big ball of risk. Even if they're receiving poor value and service by an incumbent contractor, when they get up in the morning, though, they know exactly what kind of poor value and service they're going to get. At least it's predictable. You may be the great shining angel, but they don't know that. They've been around the block enough times. They've had their hearts broken and their project goals crushed enough times. So you've got to be willing to use every small opportunity to show you're the low risk choice. Solid compliance is another way to show you're the low risk choice. Your next R, ask for it. You can't win the work. You can't win the opportunity if you don't just ask for it. I can promise you from personal experience, no one has ever died from a phone call. You can feel like you're going to die from a phone call, but never forget to ask for consideration. That includes asking, hey, could we do a small demonstration? Could we do a lunch and learn? People make the mistake of thinking the only presentation that matters is a capability presentation. You, as an established company in the commercial market, have eyes and ears into the leading edge of solutions and approaches and technology in the private sector that your federal buyer is hungry for. You're seeing things that they don't even have time to find out about. To be able to bring an outside perspective to a federal buyer and say, here are where the leading edge solutions are in the kinds of things we do. And here's an experience that we had implementing this thing or delivering that thing for a federal agency that has challenges and size and scale and scope a lot like yours. Ooh, lower risk, peak interest. Your federal buyers have relationships in their own agencies. They want to help each other. The ability to give a leg up or invite friends in their agency to hear a vendor that they like and they trust and that can provide value, that's a big plus for them. So to be able to offer resources that they could pass around or co-host an event or a webinar or a briefing or a lunch and learn that they can invite other people to helps them shine. Help them shine. Even in these days and times when COVID office policies are changing every day, your federal buyers like a break, like variety, like to get out of the office or out of the regular Zoom. So being able to offer a facility tour of some kind, a window on the outside world, or an actual walkthrough, show them something that you've done. What a great thing to do. Set yourself apart. Be sure to ask, who would you call if you were me? Or show them your research and say, hey, we've been looking in your agency and we see these 5 people in your organization. If you were me, who would you be talking to? Public servants. Public service is in their name, the name of the job description. They truly are from the government and here to help you. And that includes not just help you as a citizen, but to help you as a vendor. They're there to answer your questions. Whether you win or if you lose, you always want to ask, hey, if you were me, who else would you be talking to? Where else do you know someone who might need what it is that we do? What else might you need a hand with? What are those little tasks that you never quite got around to that you always keep getting pushed off? More than one business owner has found success by saying, hey, give me the little job, the nasty job, the dirty job. Nobody wants that thing. I'm going to do that thing. Remember that you are more than your own performance. You're also your network. To be the go-to person, the person who knows the people in your industry, in related or adjacent space, adjacent products or services, helps you be top of mind. If you always know a person who knows the person, that helps you be top of mind. It helps make you their first call. rinse and repeat. You want to create a systematic process to woo, to win, to do the work. What you're seeing there is the circle diagram depicts 4 parts of the federal market intelligence cycle. And people think it starts at the top right quadrant. There's a forecast. Congress appropriates money. The agency publishes forecast of the purchases that they plan to make and when and how they're going to make them. Then there's those pre-solicitation activities we talked about, requests for information, draft RFPs, sources sought, industry days and meetings, walkthroughs. Then the door comes down. Solicitation, very formal, structured communications, lots of rules of engagement for what you can and can't do. And then deadline, there's submission, there's contract award, there are protests, there's a final decision. And then there's contract award data. The federal government collects and publishes over 300 pieces of information about every single contract based on a contract award that's estimated to be worth more than $25,000. And that information is available for free online right now. To go forward, start by looking back. Instead of looking at what can I bid, start asking the question, start 1 quarter earlier in the cycle and say, who's my buyer? What can I know about them? Then you can say, all right, what can we do to build knowledge and liking and trusting with them? Having a methodical way to do this will save you a truckload of time. When I work with clients, we start out with a draft, a working copy of federal relationship development workflow, and then we start to tweak it, and you have your own company way, your own pathway to profit, because you know the steps that work for you to find the right people and to build the relationships. And so you get yet another good systematic way to find and woo your buyers. So I'm going to pause. I hope you have lots of questions. And so I would love to know, what one topic will you focus on this week? What one action will you commit to taking based on what we learned? And the floor is open at this point. What's your aha, your takeaway? What's going on for you right now based on those 10 R's? Trisina, love to know what's top for you. What's your big aha in listening to this? Time for questions. And we've got a little bit here. Connie says readiness, involving more of my team in the process. Yeah, Connie, that's right. You heard me say at the beginning, federal contracting, federal business is a team sport. You may have somebody who are the real analyst types. Those may be the people who really learn how to read federal data and sort through it and filter it. Your people who are courageous, that are the people everybody loves to talk to. They will talk to anybody at a bus stop. Those may be, and they know what you do. They're articulate about what your company does. Those may be the people that need and are in a good place to be developing relationships. Timothy says, thank you so much. It's been one of the most informative and helpful webinars. Great. Margie says, we've asked for a small pilot program in a large agency. Pilot programs are great. And I'm going to mention 2 other things I want you to think about. Here's an extra bonus idea. Drop this one in the chat, as a matter of fact. I want you to think about, what product or service could you offer? What could you do for less than $10,000? If when I see at least 10 answers in the chat, then I'm going to tell you why this is important. What could you do? What problem could you solve? What could you offer a federal buyer for less than $10,000? Frank says, I'm charged with selling government contracting to my stakeholders. You've got great ammo. Yeah, I hope so, Frank. Someone else has finished their SAM registration. So Connie says, requirements gathering to help them build proposals. Good. So anybody, what can you do? I'm going to see at least 5 of you. I'd like you to tell me, what could you do? What product or service could you offer? What problem could you solve for a federal buyer for less than $10,000? This is a really, really important question. Javier, you sell IT services. Okay. So what problem could you solve with IT service? Could you place a person for a temporary assignment? Could you fix a network problem? Could you do a cybersecurity diagnosis? What could you do? SMS safety program, says Margie. Good. Javier said all of those there. Okay, so that's great. Staffing temporary personnel. Good. What's something else you could do? So here's why this is important. All right, another chat question. Who would like to win a federal contract for $9,000 and not have to write a big proposal and get paid before the end of December? Who would like that? Connie says me. Yes, says Erica. Who wants a $9,000 contract? Who would like to have that? Purna says yes. Sure, says Frank. Frank's all about it. Frank's stakeholders would love him to bring in $9,000. That would get their attention. Yeah. All right. So $10,000 is a threshold that matters because a federal buyer that's authorized can award a contract worth up to $10,000 with virtually no competition, without having to write a big hairy proposal and pay you on a credit card. And what you have besides $9,000 or $10,000 in the bank, you have past performance. Past performance sells. You would say, I do business with the United States Marine Corps. Ooh, the fact that it was a $2,500 lunch and learn doesn't matter. I can tell you, I have done business with the Department of Homeland Security, Citizenship and Immigration Service. It was a $2,500 lunch and learn, but I've done business with DHS. Ooh, it opens doors. Past performance lowers the perception of risk, and you can have the experience that my clients at Tagents did. They followed this one rule, and 6 weeks before the end of the fiscal year, they were doing a document management project in Washington Headquarters Services in the Pentagon. And following that experience, they asked around. They said, who else do you know that has this problem, has this documentation requirement? They asked around. They did a generic presentation. They did follow-up. And by the end of the fiscal year, the end of September 30th, they had won a follow-on contract for $1 million. I'm not making this up. Purna, so you have experience in writing many proposals to state governments. It'll be good experience for you, Purna, to have worked within a structured environment and to have experience with formal communications and structured solicitations. And to say you've done work with a state government agency, that may be a good clue for you to consider which federal agency has responsibilities most similar. Often there's cooperative relationships, not only because the flow of funds or grants can come down from federal to state and local, but often the state government officials can identify their federal counterparts and maybe even make an introduction. So, Trisina, what are your takeaways so far from this? What's resonating with you? What really struck you about what we've covered?
First of all, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Zoom is being very cooperative. All of the information is really great, Judy. I do appreciate you bringing up even the P card and the ability for folks in a federal marketplace to be able to more quickly contract with vendors and suppliers when their purchases are below $10,000. I think that that is greatly useful information, and it ties back into the 1R with regards to having those relationships that really are the feeder into those sorts of opportunities.
Great. Other questions? I would love to have more questions from you. There's more that I can share, and I have some resources for you as well that we're also going to drop in the chat. All right. So, but in the meantime, love to have more questions, and I'm going to drop some resources that are things I'm going to be sharing in just a moment. So hang on for a second here. And we're going to have those there. So there's some things I would love to share. Resources are going to matter. The great thing is that there are a ton of free and low cost resources, including ones in your neighborhood. I have a blog post that I've written that is really kind of my anchor resource, The Ultimate Guide to Win Federal Contracts. And that includes for those of you who would consider yourself fresh and feisty. Your business may be smaller or you'll be new to federal contracting. There are resources for those of you who are already in the market. You consider yourself scrappy and hungry. You've got 1 to 5 years of federal experience. You want more wins. There's resources for those of you who consider yourself sage and intrepid. You've been around, you're looking for the next edge. So there's a half a dozen or a dozen different resources and recommendations, some great people and resources in the market that I think you would value. So I've written that blog post because we have an hour here. I am absolutely delighted and so grateful that Valerie and Tristina have arranged for you to get my book and my workbook in soft copy. I hope that you've all managed to get that and download it and open it successfully. If you have questions about the book or the workbook, I am happy to answer those. You weren't required to read any of those before you begin. The workbook has practical exercises that will take you through everything from making a really confident market entry decision to digging in and doing some of the research with free online resources that are also the same data that expensive data services charging many thousands of dollars would have you shell out by investing. Remember, I said you're going to spend time and you're going to spend money. All you get to choose is the mix. Data research into federal contract awards is one of those places where you, by investing a little bit of time, you can save, imagine saving $15,000 or $30,000 and what you could do with that instead of having a data service that just fills your email box. It's a big deal. Your next wins can include exploring your book and your workbook. The difference, this is the second edition of the book, and the difference, let's see here. Yeah. The difference between the first edition and the second edition, I wrote the first edition in 2020. In the first edition, I'm on the cover. In the second edition, you're on the cover. That's the biggest difference of what I learned in the 10 years that elapsed over writing the two books. My understanding and my personal experiences in working with my clients with what it takes to build relationships is much stronger in this edition. And it's chatty. You've heard me chat now, so you're going to hear my voice when you read it. And look, my mom likes this book, and not just to prop up her television when it's uneven. And I hope that you will enjoy it. And the second best thing about writing a book is autographing books. The best thing about writing a book is when somebody comes back to me months or even years later and they hold up the book and it's highlighted and it's stickied and it looks like it's been trampled through the wars, and someone says, this made a difference for me. And I'm delighted to have that experience in my life. Next, in that time, money trade-off, especially if you, no matter what size your business is, if you're coming up the learning curve in what it takes to be successful in the federal arena, procurement technical assistance centers can be a vital resource. Their help is free of cost. There are dozens of these offices across the United States. And if you click on the aptac-us.org website, you'll be able to click through to the map for where you are, take a look at their websites for the one near you, look at the resources they have. They have content, contacts, counseling, courses, lots and lots of help and hand-holding. Check them out. There's lots more. If you like on-demand webinars, I have some that are free on my website. I have others that I've hosted through a site called Govology. And so those are some resources that we've set up for you. And I really want to answer your questions. And so we've got some other questions in chat. I'm just going to take a look here. And all right. We had a really juicy question back there a second ago. Timothy wanted to know, how do you identify your buyers if the service you provide is not necessarily associated with a particular agency, but something that will likely arise over time to many different agencies? A couple of thoughts on that. Sometimes your buyer, the person who most needs what you do, you can take a look at the products or services that they're buying now and know that if they're buying this thing now, then they're going to need what I do later. You want to look at the money so that you can see that this federal buyer or agency, and even in my neighborhood, in my state, in my community, is spending enough money that I can afford to invest time to keep showing up and getting to know them. The number of places where you attempt to offer your products and services are related to how much resources and time and bandwidth you've got to develop to research them and develop relationships there. And so choosing can be hard. In the book, in chapter 2 on focus, you're going to find some qualitative ways to think through based on when I look at where I'm currently selling, where I'm being successful now. If I had to define my median client, I could do 5 more contracts or serve 5 more clients like this at the drop of a hat. I know that this is the type of thing I do and the size of the project, the scale, the scope, and the mission, the kind of thing I help these people with. Then thinking about which federal agency is most similar in size and scale and scope to my sweet spot client. That could be a different way to determine where somebody's going to be most excited by the kind of work you've already done. They go, oh, you've served people just like me yesterday afternoon. I think you really get me. I'm willing to take the time to talk to you. Connie wants to know, what's the best way to research contract award data based on purchases made with P cards? If you want to focus on agencies that just make these purchases. I want to caution everyone against the lure of, oh, I want to find people who use P cards and I'm going to spam them. Please do not do this. Even people who make small purchases first, they also make larger ones. And if they don't know you, nobody has $8,000 or $10,000 to just squander. Federal contract award data, there are over 300 data fields. There is one data field that asks whether or not they used a purchase card. There's another data field that shows you who approved, who created the contract record, who modified the contract award record. Some of that is a full email, and some that they'll provide clues, and you got to do a little bit more digging. And the clues in that contract award data are the first data point to identify the players at all 5 layers, every place that you want to do business. Okay. And so again, saying, I just want to focus on agencies that use P cards to do what I do. Interesting way to look at it. I encourage you to think about who needs what I do, and then what are some small ways that I could work with them and help them, rather than, oh, good, I'm going to concentrate on the P card people because they can hit a button and make my cash register ring. Nope. Go back to the people. Timothy, thank you for appreciating what I'm able to share here. I'm loving your questions, and you're making this a great experience. Christine, is there anything that's coming up for you?
No, go on with the questions, please.
Okay. And Purna says, novice entrant to federal will get any consulting help from Summit Insight. My book and my workbook are the go-to resources for a start. I have a couple of other things on my website and a couple of other things that I'm working with my business team to roll out for 2022. If your business has more than 5 million in revenue typically, and you've got at least 3 people in the company that are actively involved in and committed to working on and winning federal business, the Federal Business Intensive may be a good approach for you. This is an 8-week intensive experience. It's a private program that I do with an individual company team, typically between 3 and 10 people from an individual company. And in this experience, you create and launch a custom federal sales plan so that in 8 weeks or less, you build a solid relationship pipeline into at least 3 places where you are confident you can win work. That is what we do. It's not a course. It's not a class. It's not a database. It is 8 weeks of hard work. The good news is that the teams that do the work are successful. Now, I will tell you my stratospheric story just because it's so much fun. Your mileage may vary. About a year ago, a woman-owned business in New York, a custom clothing manufacturer, had never done federal business, and they had a couple of questions. They read my book. They said, we want to engage you. We started working together this time last year. Within 4 months, it was a $5 million revenue company. And within 4 months of finishing the program, they won their first federal contract ever. Didn't have to be a subcontractor. They won their first contract as a prime with the United States Marine Corps for $46.8 million. Your mileage may vary. They followed the advice I gave them. They took full advantage of the coaching that comes with this program. They made a great choice among the proposal consultants I also suggested, but they dug in and they built the relationships. And so other of my clients win work while they're still in the program. See, there's 4 things that successful federal contractors all do. You can write these things down. All right. And I thought there were 3, turns out there are 4. 4 things that everybody who's successful in the federal market all do. The first is to beef up and buff up your federal sales game. Understand who the players are at all 5 layers and what to do, what to say, and what to ask to build those relationships. The second thing people do when they're successful is make a confident choice based on hard data of where you're going to focus your efforts. The third thing people do when they're successful is build a structured federal sales plan around just those people and agencies. The average contact relationship management system shows you who you know. A great federal sales plan shows you who you don't know, but need to know, and gives you a methodical, systematic way to knit those together. So you're minimizing or even eliminating the dreaded cold call. And you're engaging people who already know you and love you and want you to be successful in getting you in the door of the people you need to meet. Now, I'd been doing this with 50 or 60 companies. When I called to follow up and say, what did you learn? How are things going? I will always remember the conversation I had with Captain Edna Nardovich, the CEO of the Mid-Atlantic Maritime Academy. He said, this was tactically brilliant. We didn't do the work. I got to own that. I said, how do we fix that? 3 years ago, I took apart everything I had been doing and piloted not 1, not 3, but 5 different programs and nearly lost my mind as well as my shirt. Put it all back on the shelf and said, what did we learn? Here's the 4th thing. Where's my magic wand? The 4th thing that people do when they're successful in the federal market: use the plan. That's to be able to work together and actually take the steps is why this is an 8-week experience. If you're wondering more about it, the link is in the chat. Take a look at it on the website. You can request a federal business breakthrough conversation. If you qualify, we can chat about what's on your journey, and you'll come away with at least 3 things that you can do right away that'll start to make a difference. So other questions coming up. And what would be your recommendation for finding companies to team with? Connie, if teaming is important to you, understand, and there's on that teaming is, what chapter is teaming? All my good suggestions on teaming are in chapter 5 in the book. And so cherry picking from my brain on this one, expect it's a 2-sided sell. So you want to, and I'm sure that just about everyone in this call has had this experience where you want to do business with a large corporate, a corporate entity. They say, great, fill out our portal. You say, okay, here we go. They say, great, come to our matchmaking. You come to the matchmaking and crickets. Okay, so now let's roll it back and say, hi, we've just been to the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center in Glencoe, Georgia, and they say they're going to die if they don't have our stuff. Want to talk? Ooh, walk this way. So bringing opportunity will always get their attention. The data will show you which primes, which are all and large and small, are active in the agencies that you want to do business in. It'll show you their contract vehicles. It'll show you who loves them, who awarded the work to them. And so past contract data will let you not only narrow your choice for who you think you need to be talking to, but let you show up smart to the conversations with both their end users and in the players and layers in that corporate organization. Kenneth, you talked about my company is based out of Charlotte. Are your services for us? Kenneth, I would love to get to know you. I work with clients not only all over the continental United States, but my newest clients are in Guam. So Charlotte, yeah, it's somewhere between here and Guam. So I would say Your location would certainly be, would not disqualify you. I work with companies in all the time zones and really enjoy it. Other questions that you may have right now? And if you're in if you are going to be in the Washington, D.C. area, I'm doing something fun. And you can tell that all of the work I do is around building relationships and really understanding what it takes to build trust. Now imagine having an experience where a federal employee, somebody involved in government contracting, would be willing to literally put their life in your hands when you had only met them a half an hour before. Can you imagine that happening? Well, first of all, when you're asking your federal buyer to do business with you, they are putting their life in your hands. They have everything at stake, not just professionally, but personally. And why that is a conversation for another day. But that's the reason why in my mysterious and coveted private life, when I'm not doing government contracting, I'm a professional rock climbing instructor. I've literally taught 1,000 people to go up a wall. And that is such a powerful experience. You're a business owner. You work all week without a net, right? I do too. When I want to do something fun and exciting, I also want to make sure I'm doing it with somebody who's got my rope. Then this is the experience. And this is why I'm a rock climbing instructor, because I can teach someone that you can try, you can fail, you can fall, you can be safe. You can try again. And when you've had enough, you can say, lower me. And your belay partner will bring you down safely. We do a monthly event called GovCon Rockstars. Government climbing, the government contractors and government employees getting together, meeting each other for the first time and again, and rock climbing together. Bring your friends, bring your clients, bring your kids. So we get to know each other as human beings. And afterward we go, and what exactly is that you do in the office of the Secretary of the Navy or whatever that is? But we get to know each other as people first and really have that profound experience, very different kind of experience of what it means to build trust in the federal arena, and a lot of food for thought for how you can make that happen every day in your business. Closing thoughts and comments. I'd love to know, just drop it in the chat. What's your takeaway? What did you take away from this session? Tracina, how about you?
I thought it was a great session. I really hope that everybody got a lot of great information from today's session, as well as from the materials that you shared with us.
Connie, thank you for your appreciation. I would love to chat with you. Connect with me on LinkedIn, please. And by all means, let me know your questions, give me your feedback on the links, and make a good decision. I close by asking you, drop into the chat whether if you've decided, yes, the federal government is the right place for you, then drop a yes, a no, or a maybe. Those are all great answers. Because if you've decided no, I have also achieved my mission. One of three things happens when I give a presentation like this. People respond, yes, this is my place. I know this is the place I'm supposed to serve. It's going to help me grow my business. Oh, this is not what I thought it was. Just a second. I need to think some more. Or I am so not doing this. Thank you very much. The federal business is not going to be good for me. So yes, no, or maybe. Drop it in the chat. It'll give us a sense of where you are now based on the time that you spent together. Yes, no, or maybe. Purna says yes.
Excellent.
Yes, says Kent, waiting on 8A. Connie's going to make some changes. Yeah. You don't have to wait for your 8A to get in the program. If you have past performance, Kenneth, you do not have to wait. Margie says, yes, trying to find out if 8A is for you. Even if 8A is not, it is not the golden ticket. There are lots of people who have 8A certifications and no money. So who else? So we've got Purna, Connie, Kenneth, Margie. Who else? Yes, no, maybe. If you're here, love to know. All right. Tracina, close us out.
Alrighty, thank you everybody for your participation today. Judy, we really appreciate your guiding us through the winning in the federal market space. As I shared at the top of today's presentation, following today's session, you will receive an email from EMSDC that will include a link to a survey. We ask that you complete your evaluation and submit that back to us. That email will also contain a copy of Judy's slide deck, and it will include a copy of the recording of today's session. If you need to learn more about certification as a minority business, please visit our website at www.emsdc.org. And there's also a lot of other great information there. Our video library you can access there, and our essentials page is highly recommended. Again, Judy, thank you so much for today's session. We really do appreciate it. And with that, from all of EMSDC and especially from our president and CEO on behalf of her, we thank you all for participating today. Have a great one.
Thank you, Tristina. Thank you all.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.